there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and before we get started, I just wanted to give some context for the following video. This is actually produced in collaboration with the LEGO Group to promote their latest LEGO Ninjago book, Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu. The truncated version of this video, which is basically reduced down to just 30 minutes, can be found on the LEGO Life app, which you can download on the App Store or the Google Play Store, which has a lot of really cool exclusive content, and it was really awesome being able to have the chance to actually be featured on official LEGO media. So thank you so much to LEGO for making this a reality. However, I wanted to make sure that this video would be able to be posted on my channel as well, especially because this is the longer form version of our interview with the authors of Ninjago Quest for the Lost Powers. Joining me today are Ninjago and LEGO YouTubers My Brick Opinions, Bricks by Mind, and Parachuting Kitten. So thank you so much for joining, and let's get right into the video. Hey there, you're watching LEGO Life. I'm Duckbricks, and today we are sitting down with LEGO Ninjago authors Tracy West and Adam Beechin to learn more about their brand new canon Ninjago book, Quest for the Lost Powers, which takes place directly after the events of Ninjago Crystallize and tells a tale of how the ninja regained their powers. Joining me today is a panel of people from across the entire LEGO Ninjago community, and we are so excited to get into a ton of questions and learn a lot more about what it takes to make a LEGO Ninjago book. So, let's go!
All right, well, let's get into this. First of all, thank you so much, Adam, for taking the time to chat with us. We're super excited to chat with you and with everybody, and we had a great time reading the book. And a few questions for you, but I think why don't we first start off with, if you don't mind, introducing yourself, giving a bit of a background, maybe talking a little bit about what the process is writing for Ninjago, if you've written for any other LEGO properties, how long you've been working with LEGO, and then we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves afterwards as well.
Sure. I'm Adam Beechin, and I wrote half of the book we're going to be talking about. And I have been working with LEGO for a couple of years now. Actually, I've been working with LEGO for a long time, going all the way back to Nexo Knights and a number of Hero Factory and a number of other properties. But I wrote an episode of Ninjago during the Hands of Time season, which was a lot of fun. And since then, I have been working with the publishers to put out a couple of books. This is my fourth book for Ninjago. I'm not quite sure. But I've also worked on other LEGO TV properties like Jurassic World and LEGO City Adventures. So I'm a distant relative of the LEGO family.
That is really cool to hear. I love the LEGO City Adventures TV show. It's really fun. So that's really cool hearing that you work on it. Yeah.
I was the head writer for the most recent season.
Awesome. Well, I'm Chris. I go by Duckbricks online. Huge LEGO fan, huge Ninjago fan, and LEGO has brought us together to give you these interviews. And yeah, nice to meet you.
Same here.
I'm Sean. I go by Bricks by Mind online, and yeah, same thing. I've been collecting LEGO forever. Huge fan of Ninjago, so it's really cool to get to talk to you.
I'm Ace. I go by My Brick Opinions, and I'm also really grateful to be able to talk to you.
Cool.
And I'm Maya, aka Parachuting Kitten. I've been following Ninjago forever, so this is definitely fun.
Excellent. Me too.
Okay, well, we may as well just get right into the questions. I've denoted folks who might be able to ask the questions so we can keep it dynamic down in the chat. The first one that we have is that obviously the book takes place right after Ninjago crystallized, and we were kind of curious, what was the timeline in terms of writing the book? Did you have visibility into the script and plotline of the season, or were you just kind of told bullet points of like, hey, this is what happens in the final episode, write a story based on that? Just curious like how much, I guess, collaboration there is between the book writing team and the TV show writing team, given that you've been a part of both, and like you wrote scripts for season 7.
Lego is extremely collaborative, which is one of the great things about working with Lego, is that they give you all the information that you need to know in order to do your project, but they're also open to your own ideas, which is wonderful. I've had as good an experience working with Lego as I have with anybody in my career. We didn't have a lot of visibility into the actual putting together of the storyline of Crystallized. What we received initially, or what I received initially, were bullet points. I can't remember if I was sent the scripts later on or not. I may have been, but we knew the general plot line of the season. We knew some of the specifics as far as what happens to each of the characters. But within the stories that were created for the book, we had a lot of input into various details of the plot and how the story was going to work out.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so sorry. So like going into the writing of the book, so what was the prompt you were specifically given? Were you specifically asked to write up stories about the ninja regaining their powers, or just a canon books that takes place right after the season?
It's kind of a combination of both. We were told what the season was about. We knew that this was going to be about how the characters individually and separately got their powers back. And we were told that, what the basic storyline was for each, that Cole was going to go here, that Jay was going to go here, et cetera, et cetera. But once they got to those locations, kind of the specifics were left up to the writer to come up with in coordination with the Lego executives. So it was a very back and forth process of, here's what we'd like to have happen. And Lego would say, this is great, maybe try this, or this doesn't work quite as well with what we have in mind, et cetera. And so it was very back and forth.
Okay. So there are a lot of great callbacks, references, and returning characters from particularly from more recent eras of Ninjago. I want to ask, like, you wrote the Jake part, so obviously Unagami came back. Have you seen the entire Ninjago TV show from beginning to end? And was there anything you wanted to include but either couldn't or decided not to?
There are episodes that I have not seen. I admit it. I'm not proud of it, but I will admit that I have not seen every episode of Ninjago. I did watch all of the episodes that led up to the one episode that I wrote, but that was a while ago. And let me tell you, that was a project. That was a couple of weeks of just watching Ninjago 24/7, 365, and my eyes just sort of went ding. So I haven't really watched a lot since then because I haven't been as involved in working on stories as I was when I was writing that one episode. But I had to rely on Lego's summary of the season prior to the book and on information about the seasons since that I had found online. Luckily, there's a great deal to be found online about Ninjago.
Well, thank you. I can see Tracy. Thank you so much for joining us and popping in. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. So sorry for, technology's great, isn't it? Glad to be here.
Well, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us. This is really, really exciting, I think, for all of us. We just did our intros, but for just quick a recap, I'm Chris, and then we'll have everybody do intros again if you don't mind giving an intro yourself as well.
Sure. Oh, so I'm Tracy West, and I have written more than 400 books for kids. I've been writing books for about 30 years, and a lot of those books are based on, as you already know, licensed properties. A lot of ninja martial arts based series, and I got my start in the tie-in world doing, probably close to 100 Pokemon books. And then I sort of became the go-to writer for hire for Bakugan and Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's kind of how I got the Lego gig all those years ago. And I'm so happy to still be writing for Lego.
That is so cool. I know that you've been writing for Ninjago since it began, but that's so interesting hearing how many that you've written for children. That's very, very impressive. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
So I'm Sean. I go by Bricks by Mind online. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, Sean.
Hey, I'm Ace. I go up by Maverick Opinions, and as well, nice to meet you.
Zane.
And I'm Maya, aka Parachuting Kitten. Great to be here with you.
I love your handle. Hi, Maya.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, timing is pretty good because we literally just started getting into questions. It sounds like we had a couple of questions at the beginning talking about what the process was behind writing the book, and specifically like how much visibility did you have into Ninjago Crystallize, the TV season, and what prompt were you given for writing the book, which Adam was able to really help us out to answer. But then Ace, I think you just asked a question which I think can apply to both of them when writing this. So maybe why don't we just start again from there and go from that one.
Yeah, so Tracy, there are a lot of great references, callbacks, and returning characters, particularly from the most recent era of Ninjago in the book itself. From the Fire Fang, your part, and to Nagami, Adam's part. And have you seen the entire Ninjago TV show? And was there anything you wanted to include in the book but couldn't or decided not to?
Oh, okay, great question. So yes, over the years I have seen the entire TV show. However, that doesn't mean I remember anything specific that happened in season 1 or season 2. So I find that I always have to go back and look at the videos online. And I did hear Adam briefly talking about, the wiki is terrific. Usually I use the wiki to say what episode did that happen in, and then I can go back to the episode and reference it. And I did a lot of that for this book. In the Zane story, he is going back to his memories, right? So I had to go back to all those episodes and make sure I got the memories exactly right. As far as Fire Fang goes, there's a large team of people who worked on getting down the initial concepts for this book. And so it was the folks at Meet and Lego working on the concepts, giving them to us, and then we were saying, here's the way we can do it, because a lot of times we get an idea, and I it's our job as writers to figure out, well, how can we make this a 5-chapter story, right? So it has to have a beginning and some things have to happen in the middle, and so we have to expand on the concept. And it was actually Tommy Kalmar who said, we don't know what happened to Fire Fang. Like I saw in the wiki, a lot of people assumed Fire Fang was dead, but then when you go back and look, he kind of just, slithers away. And so Tommy said, I'd really love to see Fire Fang in this. And, of course, it made a lot of sense because Kai is thinking, how do I get my powers back? Well, of course, Fire Fang has Kai's powers, right? So it was just so logical and so beautiful. And then it was my job to figure out, okay, where would Fire Fang go? How has he been hiding out all this time and nobody knew where he was, right? And so then I kind of just took it from there.
Awesome. So next question. So both of you have written stuff for Ninjago before, from supplemental material to like a whole episode. I'm wondering, how was this book different from previous Ninjago stuff that you've written for, seeing as it's the canon book, which is kind of strange within the history of Ninjago? How is that different, similar?
I'm happy to, I know Adam's there somewhere. I will say that this is not the first canon book that I've worked on, and I'm actually online right now because I can't remember the title of it. That's awful, but when you write more
Spinjitzu Brothers?
Besides Spinjitzu Brothers, I was asked to write a similar book between when Zane was destroyed and Titanium Ninja and the island, Chen's Island. And so I was asked to write a chapter book about what the ninja were doing between losing Zane and they got the call to go on the island. So I at least had done this kind of thing once before. And so that was good to have had that past experience because it does it does feel like a big responsibility, because you've got to get these characters exactly right, and you have to kind of get in their minds and figure out what they would do. But having done that before, I was like, wholeheartedly excited to work on this one.
I think for me, the big difference, I had not written a canon book for the show before. First of all, Tracy, it's nice to meet you. We
Nice
never
to
actually met.
No, just
How you doing?
good.
Good. Okay. And I love your work.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. But for me, the one of the joys of this book was that I got to explore the emotions and the interior lives of a couple of the characters more than I have in previous projects. So you're meeting the characters at a point where they're at a certain place emotionally, and you're trying to take them to another place emotionally as well as physically. And that gives you a lot of chance to think about the character, to explore how a character would react in a given situation, and to really show a transformation in them over the course of a story. That's the best kind of story, I think, for a writer to write, is when a character can go from A to B like that, and experience a lot of stuff in the middle, as Tracy said. So for me, it was really fun to get in deep on a couple of the characters, whereas writing a single episode or a book about spinjitzu doesn't necessarily allow you to do that.
That makes sense. Thank you both for sharing. I think the next question is probably geared a little bit more towards Tracy because it has to do with the Zane story. One comment that I want to make is that we were discussing between our group, the book, and everyone's favorites, and I found it really funny that all of us had like a different favorite chapter, all of us had different favorite rankings, and it was really cool. Full disclosure, my favorite chapter was about Zane, and that's why I really wanted to ask about this particular one. Love them all, of course, but the story of Zane confronting his past, especially as the Ice Emperor, was, I know this is something that Ninjago co-creator Tommy Anderson has said publicly that he's been wanting to include it in the show for a while, but wasn't quite able to squeeze it in. Like, he tried to put it in Crystallized, but the writers wanted to put a more comedic twist on it and not address it too seriously, so never got a chance to really be addressed in the show. So what I'm kind of curious about is that, did you have any contact with Tommy to discuss the vision for that arc, or did you both kind of independently arrive at wanting to address that to put it in? And the last kind of additional thing on that is that there's a small reference to Zane snowboarding in that chapter, and I know the original concept for Zane all the way back when Ninjago was being conceptualized in 2009, 2010 was that he was a snowboarder. Was this intentional to reference that, or was it just a happy coincidence? So I guess a two-part question.
Okay, so the easy answer is the snowboarding was a happy coincidence, because when I was trying to imagine young Zane living out in this frozen land and wanted to sort of bring some joy to his experiences, of course he's going to snowboard, right? So as far as exploring the Ice Emperor angle, so the Tommy who does the work with Amita's Tommy Kalmar, right? So he is our Lego connection to these books. So, and we could not, I know I couldn't write any of these books without Tommy, right? And so the conversations all began with, we knew the ninja had to have their own, I'm blanking out on the moment that it's called. Adam, maybe you can help me. What's the moment when they fight, when they get their powers? It's their true potential.
True potential, yeah.
Potential. So the first thing was, how did Zane find it the first time? Okay, it can't be that. It has to be something really different. And I'm trying to think of where the idea of tapping into I'll say that it was probably a collective choice to do it, because it seemed like obviously the most major thing that's ever happened to Zane, and it hasn't been explored, and it seemed like the biggest hurdle for him to have to get over was to reconcile. Zane is probably my favorite character. It's hard to say, and I hated that series. Not hated. I hated what happened to Zane in that because he does terrible, terrible things. He is responsible for the deaths of all these, like when you really look at it, he's sort of a grumpy, funny character, but he does these terrible things. So, yeah, it just seemed like we had to explore that. And so that was tough in this book. Like, I feel like, at least with the Kai story, I could keep it funny and light. The Zane story had to be a little more serious because of what he was dealing with.
Thank you. That's so interesting to hear.
So it sounds like you had at least a pretty good handle on Crystallized and what was going to, be coming before the book. Did they give you any hint of what's happening in the new series, or were you completely blind?
I was not given any insight into what's going to happen next. However, if you send me $20 in a self-addressed stamped envelope, I will be glad to make something up and send it back. No, I'm kidding. I have no idea what's coming next, and I'm as excited to find out as anybody is.
Oh, that's good to hear.
So you've written books for other LEGO lines like Chima, Next to Nights, and even the LEGO Batman movie. What's it like writing for Ninjago compared to like other LEGO themes? What's the best and worst part about writing for something with like such a long history and well-established audience?
Adam, you can start with that one.
I would say that you've already said it, and both answers are the same, and it's the history. It's the amount of lore that is associated with the show. On the one hand, it is just a wealth of information from which you can pull stories and think up new things and new angles. But on the other hand, a lot of those stories have been done already. So it's a little tricky to find new angles. And you tend to go through a lot of trial and error and, sending lists of things off and then saying, well, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. Maybe this. We've done this, we've done this, we've done this. And it's daunting. It's daunting how much history the show has and how much lore there is. And to keep it all in mind as you're trying to write your story is really difficult. It's fun, but it's really difficult.
Right. And you don't want to, you can't make mistakes because
no,
that's the hardest, that. And then also the fact that the story of the ninja has never been told really in a linear fashion, right? So you have to kind of go back and figure out the timeline. Like, for example, I write a series called Spinjitzu Brothers, which is Wu and Garmadon shortly after Garmadon's been bitten. Well, their ages, so we don't know how well they are. But they appear to be teenagers, right? And so I had a lot of issues with that, with Tommy K telling me like, well, no, at this point in their lives, Wu is the more impetuous one and Garmadon's the more sensible one. And I was like, wait, what? And if I write the characters like that, like, that's going to be confusing to some readers. So with that series, I'm doing this delicate line of making sure Wu is wooish enough so he's believable as a teen, and Garmadon, we can see that he's a little different, but that he's going to be evil. And so that's definitely more challenging than, say, writing, a Lego Friends book where the characters are, pretty much very consistent.
Can I just add to that a little bit? We're greatly helped by the fact that Tommy has all this information in his head,
yes,
and he is a terrific backstop for us. If we, get a little bit too far in one direction or a little too far in another direction, Tommy is right there to say, no, it'd be a little more like this, and help us get back onto the track.
Yes. Yeah. I get a lot of those kinds of notes.
Me too.
Awesome, thank you. That's really, really insightful. So my next question is about the images in the books. They're similar to the ones that we've seen in Spinjitzu Brothers and Harumi's Journal, but they're personally for me, it was one of my favorite parts of the book. I loved seeing the illustrations of all these characters and all these different scenarios. So what's the process behind the creation of these drawings? And is it collaborative, or do you write the story first and someone else just draws images to correspond with it?
It's the latter thing that you just said, basically, except that, like, I know in Spinjitzu Brothers, for example, I create a lot of new characters, right? And so the look of those characters has to be created before I write the book, and we have to make sure that the features of the characters is something you would find in the Lego world. So that's, basically my only role in that is to saying, well, I know we can give a minifig like streaked purple hair, so can we do that with this character? And once, so I help with the character looks, and then I can move forward in describing them in the book. But then it's up to, I think it's the folks at Meet, honestly, who are the ones who work with the illustrators, and yeah, they're really fun illustrations. They're really great.
It's true, they are, and I didn't have any input whatsoever into the illustrations. You write and you hope, and it always, at least in my case, turns out better than I expect. Having worked a lot in comics, I've learned to trust the artists a great deal. They know what they're doing, and they can do it far better than me. So I'm always excited to see what the illustrations are when they come back, and I'm almost never disappointed.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, those illustrations were some of my favorite parts as well. I think my favorite part was seeing the one of the villains from the Cole part of the book was a reference to Lego's original 1990s Ninja line. It was just straight up just one of the minifigures from that line. So that was so cool seeing like, oh, now this minifigure, which you can own, which if you find it on Bricklink, is canon to Ninjago, which is always very cool to have something like that be included.
Yeah,
so
that's the fun of it, is that you can tie in little things from nowhere that you think that maybe nobody's going to remember, but then of course somebody remembers. And it's I always say that every character is somebody's favorite character, and every character is somebody's least favorite character. So it's fun to find these characters that have maybe not as appeared as much as others, and bring them back in sort of a sneaky way.
Very nice. Before we get into some rapid-fire fun questions for both of you, I do have one kind of a strange question. This might be a Hail Mary, but is there anybody, Tracy, that you might know that might be able to arrange an English release of Garmadon Rules? As you probably know, the book only released in certain languages. I know I have the Polish version. I know it also released in German. I went to Poland to get the book. I mean, it wasn't just to get the book.
What?
But I was on a trip and I was like, I need to get the book while I'm here because we're not getting this in English. I know a ton of Ninjago fans would love to be able to read it in English. Like, any chance you can slide a PDF over to Stein and see if she can handle that? Or
Yeah, that would be in breach of my contract. So for anyone who doesn't know, Garmadon Rules is a diary written in the voice of Harumi, and it's sort of, you see her transformation from a sad, confused little girl into the person that she becomes. And it was one of the coolest projects I've ever worked on, and I don't know why it's not in English. I will tell you that I do get this request a lot. I had someone say, like, we're arguing in a chat group over what this sentence would be in English. Can you tell me? And I can probably answer questions like that. But I talked to the Meet, and it, doesn't. So I would say, maybe write to Lego, or, do a campaign, because, and the book, and I, to be honest, I don't think I even have any copy of it, which makes me sad, but it's so cool.
Well, I'll say I really enjoyed reading it on Google Translate on my phone with the camera feature, trying to make out what it was saying. So that was a good read. Okay, why don't we get into the rapid fire fun questions? And I think, Maya, you're up first.
Yes, so obvious one. Who's your favorite ninja?
Want me to start with that one? Well, for me it's Jay, because I think that Jay and I have similar senses of humor, and the ability to tell the wrong joke at the wrong time, and we also have the same ability to embarrass ourselves. So I feel a very close kinship with the character, and he's a lot of fun for me to write.
Yeah, and I've always kind of been drawn to Zane. I just the way he explores his humanity, is so fascinating to me. And I think I've always been a sucker for, like I love Spock and I love Data. And so it's kind of the Ninjago version of that.
So on a similar note, what's your favorite Ninjago storyline?
Tracy, I'll let you go first this time.
Oh, thanks. And I just want you to know, all right, rapid fire. Okay. I think I do like the Harumi storyline a lot. But I also love the Tournament of Elements, I have to say. It might be the Tournament of Elements just because some of those secondary characters are great, and then you have the whole storyline with Zane, so it has a lot of pluses in my check boxes.
and I'm completely biased that for me it's Hands of Time because that's the season that I got to write an episode for, so of course I'm going to say that.
Oh, wow.
That's the one that I always go back to.
Awesome. That is a good mix of different plot lines. Yeah. My question is, and I do have a follow-up after this really quickly, but what is your favorite theme from LEGO other than Ninjago?
I build a lot of LEGO elves, because in my real life, I'm my other life, I write a lot of fantasy fiction, and so the elves are just fun, and I'm trying to do the bookshop, so the city scenes are fun, and I really think I'm going to get Rivendell. Really. Oh, yeah. Full disclosure, my stepson Kyle is 25, and he, if I get Rivendell, I can't do it without a master builder or somebody who knows what he's doing. So,
for me, it's Jurassic World. I was able to work on the season or the 2 seasons actually that we did for television, and for me the fun of that was combining 2 different sensibilities, the lore and the world of Jurassic World with the LEGO sensibility, and bringing that kind of whimsy to it while at the same time making sure the characters behave more or less like the characters in the movies, and that was a blast. And we got to tell a contained story that if you watch it beginning to end, it all makes sense. But if you can come in for just one episode, you'll have a great time in that one episode. And playing around in both of those kinds of worlds was a real treat for me as a writer.
Awesome. Really quick follow-up to that. I know, Adam, you mentioned you worked on Hero Factory, which, by the way, really awesome line, very underrated. I'm kind of curious, did either of you ever work in any capacity on Bionicle by any chance, either G1 or G2?
I did not.
Fair enough.
No.
Had to ask.
I wish it would have been a lot of fun. I love the property, but no, I didn't have that pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
So
don't the Bionicles need to come back though?
Oh, of course. well, we got the GWP. We got a little set this year in January as a free gift, but yes, full line. Yeah, we got to have it back.
Yeah.
So on a very similar note, you guys have mentioned a little bit in this already in this interview, but what other themes have you guys worked on besides Ninjago?
Oh, okay. So I worked on Friends, I worked on Chima, and I worked on Nexo Knights. Oh, and I did one of the Lego Batman, but mostly Ninjago.
Batman must have been a lot of fun. I'm saying that as a comic book geek.
That was cool because this is, if you want like a little window in the world of writing for books like this, the script was so top secret that all the writers for the books had to meet in this office room, and we all had to look at the script at the same time and take notes. Like the script was up on a screen and we had to take notes about what happened. We didn't get to take the scripts home and write the book, and we had like a 3-hour window to take notes from the script, and then we could go and write our book. It was wild.
There's been a lot of discussion in America in the last couple of weeks about classified documents being found in strange places. I can assure you that does not happen with Lego.
No.
Their security is top notch, and they should probably tell the government a couple of things about how to keep it that way.
Yes.
You, Adam? You didn't say.
Oh, me? Oh, sorry. Yeah, well, I've written for Jurassic World and City Adventures, which was another crash course in watching a lot of episodes in a very quick period of time. I did work on Hero Factory, wrote a couple of things for that, and I remember writing a Nexo Knights book. I'm not sure if it ever came out, but I remember writing a book for it. Yeah, I think that's about it. Hopefully, there's a lot more to come in the future.
Wait, actually, I'm interested. Do you remember the name of the book?
For Nexo Knights?
Yeah, Nexo Knights.
I do not.
Ooh.
I'm sure I have it buried in my computer somewhere.
Okay, so now jumping back into Ninjago, what's your favorite character to write for in the world of Ninjago?
For me, the answer is the same as before. It's Jay. Just because he covers up a lot of his real feelings with jokes. And I think that's an interesting character attribute. Why do they do that? Why do characters like that do that? What are they really thinking inside? And a book like this allows me to get into some of that in a way that maybe a single episode of the show can't do, just because there's not enough time and space and you've got to do a lot of other things. So for me, it's Jay. I find his voice the easiest one for me to access.
I would say in some ways it might be Kai, only because Kai is sort of like your typical hero character, right? And I love the way the series set him up to be the hero, and then here comes Lloyd. But in many ways, Kai is like, it's easy to predict what he's going to do next, right? Like, so as a writer, that's helpful.
All right, sorry, my internet just like is very, very spotty. It's going in and out. I'm back. Hopefully, it will not go out on me again. So last question. We've kind of talked about this a little bit, but do you have any Lego sets? And if so, what's your favorite one?
Tracy?
Oh yeah, I think, or did I answer the wrong question before? Yeah, so I have a bunch of Lego Elves sets because of that, and I have the bookshop, and I have a lot of the Christmas stuff. And as I mentioned before, my goal is to get Rivendell, but I will not be able to complete that alone.
So when I was working on City Adventures, I had just started working on City Adventures. An executive at Lego called me up and said, "Hey, do you have any Lego sets?" And I said, "Well, not really." And he said, "Well, do you want any?" I was like, And he said, "Well, what would you like?" I said, "Well, I've seen the T-Rex and the gates for Jurassic World, and I think that would be really awesome to have." And so 2 weeks later, this box, yay big, shows up at my door, and I open it up, and it says 3,000 pieces or whatever. And I'm thinking, But luckily it was right before Thanksgiving, and a whole bunch of family was coming to town. So I just spread the whole thing out on a table and said, "Go at it, people." And 3 days later, we had the whole set. In fact, I think I can show it to you. Can you guys see it over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cord isn't long enough, but there it is. And now, of course, I can't take it down, because how am I going to put it back together ever again? And we're in the process of moving, so I'm going to be in the position of carrying this thing over to the new house very delicately. But it's going to be worth it because I love the set so much.
That is awesome. Well, I think that about sums stuff up. We are about at perfect time as well. So I just want to say thank you so much to both of you for having the chance to come on and chat with us. This was such a fun time. One last thing, is there anything else that we didn't ask either of you that you want to share about the process of writing for Ninjago? Anything that you want to talk about your experiences, or have we pretty much summed it all up?
Let me think about that. I just want to say that what I love about writing for Ninjago is that our editors and Tommy are so willing to listen to our ideas and incorporate our ideas, right? And so we do have a lot of creative freedom, within the confines of the license. And that's really a wonderful thing, especially when you're writing for an established property like this. To get that kind of creative respect is just, it's fantastic. And that's why I love writing for Lego.
I agree with that. And writers a lot of time work in isolation. There's not a lot of contact with other people. So to be able to work with a team as big and as varied as the Lego folks, who are incredibly supportive and there to answer any questions you have, or like I said before, put you back on the right track if you get off the right track, is really wonderful. It's nice to have that feedback and nice to have that conversation when you're trying to put together a book as important as this one.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been very, very fun, helpful, incredible insights. Hopefully the viewers over on Lego Life, I think, which is where this is going to be published, which is very cool, will enjoy hearing your insights as well. I think that's about all from us, but it's been a pleasure meeting both of you, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us, and great questions.
Yes, thank you. The questions were great, and it was wonderful meeting each one of you. So thanks.
Thanks for talking with us. It was a really nice time.
Yeah.
You bet.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Maya. Thanks, Christopher.
All right.
We'll see you for the next
later.
book.
Oh,
All right.
of course, yeah. And the next TV episode that you write as well, yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Alright, and with that, we have summed up our interview with authors Tracy West and Adam Beechin. Big thank you to both of them for being able to share their secrets of what goes into making a LEGO Ninjago book with all of us, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to tune in to LEGO Life for even more LEGO Ninjago content and videos and news coming your way very soon. Let's jump up, kick back, whip around, and spin, and bye for now.